that definitely sucks. I when they were putting my dog to sleep, I definitely you realize that there's like you can learn all kinds of shit, but the one thing you're never gonna be able to do is like save somebody to that, you know. Especially like when you lose loved ones and you lose like I was telling people try to say like, oh, you love pets more than people and stuff. I was like, no, it's a different type of caring for somebody, and it's just it's different because you like I wouldn't compare it to raising a child, but definitely like you're taking care of the pet. You have certain, even if like myself, I would teach my dogs like basic stuff. I wouldn't try to teach them like crazy tricks. I would just be like, hey, stay off of people, sit down when people are over, you know, wait to get a treat, stuff like that. Really basic, sit down, paw, like nothing crazy.
Like courtesy things. Yeah.
Yeah, just courtesy things for when I have guests. Um, and then like not having them, sometimes I'm just like, man, usually I'm having to tell them to like sit down, and then like you, little things you take for granted are just like, oh, him. We've been spending so much time with him now. Both of us, like if we go anywhere, we take him with us, and you're kind of like you learn about losing something else, and so you're like, you know, I'm gonna spend more time with what I have and with the time I have. But then you feel kind of messed up because you're like, well, I didn't give that to the other dog. I'm only doing it because I realized I didn't do it with the other dog.
It's like a relationship. It's
Oh.
like anything you do in life, right? I mean, it applies to everything. Yeah.
But like, and so he's so clingy right now. He's still going through the whole like separation anxiety. When we leave, he'll just start howling and howling, and then we're just kind of like, why is he howling? And at first I thought the other dog was haunting him because we had the ashes by the door.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, why is he always barking at the ashes? And I was like, is he being haunted by the other dog, by Latte?
The door right there, though.
Well, it's because we're leaving and
Yeah.
the door, they're kind of, I think maybe he doesn't know if we're coming back or something, or he just doesn't want to be alone anymore.
When
He always had the other dog
he
with
was
him.
never really alone. Yeah, and I think that's the shift, because for pets are like family, and I think that they're I've done a little bit of research on just weird things that happen in the world, and I've heard that like your pet chooses you.
Well, definitely. That's funny you say that. He ran. I've told this story before, but he ran away on 4th of July from a dog sitter that I had. Got out. He was gone for 6 months. I got him back Christmas Eve. So from 4th of July to Christmas Eve, he was out and about. And the guy, I remember him telling me like, "Hey man, I'm gonna be honest, man. Your dog is so annoying that I don't think anybody would keep your dog. Like I really think your dog is gonna turn up." And so, unless you don't get ran over or something like that, something crazy. But yeah, he turned up. He was fat, super hairy, had dingleberries and stuff. So he was living out of trash cans or something. But
Mm-hmm.
he, like, yeah, he came back.
He found you.
Yeah.
How did you find him originally?
Oh, that's another story. So at work, I was working at CSUB as a student worker, and the amount of people trying to like send emails to sell things got so bad that they created a separate kind of app or software somewhere you can go in your emails to an extension from the emails where you can advertise something for sale. And someone was advertising a dog that needed a home, and it was Simba. But Simba, apparently the girl told me two stories. She told me one story at first. I've told this story before too. She told me that he was her parents were moving and they needed a home for him. But when she brought me the dog, she was telling me how the parents thought he was a Pomeranian.
He has a Pomeranian vibe.
Yeah, people have said he's like a mix of like a Pomeranian and like some type of like a Chow or something like that. I forgot what it was. But anyways, her story changed, and then I remember the picture that she was showing me of the dog, and he had a chain. So I was like, that's a crazy dog to have on a chain in the backyard. And so I think they were neglecting it because it wasn't the dog that they thought it was. This is my assumption, right?
Yeah.
Try to boost the
You're telling yourself a story. This is a story you've told yourself. Yeah.
And so he had like ticks and stuff. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it was pretty crazy.
This is your conviction story. Like I needed to get him. Like I absolutely needed him in my life.
Well, I was already committed to him. I had him. I actually had a teacup Pomeranian That one got out, and I don't know. I don't know if someone stole it or it
Mm.
just got out. But
Yeah, those dogs are like in demand.
yeah, yeah, it is what it is. So, thank you for being here. I know we just kind of started a conversation. It helps to like loosen up too to
Yeah.
just have a conversation. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself, and then we'll go from there. We'll start talking about your business.
Okay. My name's Heather Laganelli, and I've lived in Bakersfield for about 17 years now. I'm originally from Massachusetts, born and raised in Worcester. Went to college in New Haven, Connecticut, and ended up coming out to Bakersfield. Worked for the newspaper for a while in marketing and design and advertising and specialty publications. And then worked in marketing for Three-Way Chevrolet, Hummer, Cadillac, Saab, and started a business in the Valley Plaza, of all places, selling retail, and then kind of transitioned into catering, special events, weddings, floral design, and custom cakes, graphic design for weddings, and ended up becoming a restaurateur.
I think I want to jump ahead and we'll come back to this conversation because well, one thing about you, I don't know you like that. I've seen you at events, art galleries. I've seen you at with art events and some of the
I'm an
things you help out
artist
with.
too. I forgot to tell you that part. Yes, and I'm an artist.
And you've come to class to make some art as well, and you make art separate on your own. And so I guess when I think about you or my perspective on you, it's like, oh, you're like a successful business person who dabbles in for some reason enjoys to promote art in Bakersfield for whatever your personal reasons are. And then you have your local business. That's kind of like what wraps up my thought. But I do think of you as successful because that's kind of like the rhetoric that I hear from people is that you're always encouraging other people to do business, always encouraging other people to do their own thing. Um, I don't think it's specific to women, but maybe it's kind of like the type of people who I've noticed is like certain females in the community who follow you and work with you in these different groups. But I guess growing up, whenever I think of a successful person, I think of someone who's like on this trajectory and everything's like in a ducks in a row. But then when I meet people who are successful, they're all over the place. They 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 have their like 9 to 5, and then they have their hobbies. They have their business ideas, which then kind of pull them away from their 9 to 5, and then they just start dabbling in all the things that I guess now that you have resources and an understanding of how to start a business, and it kind of after that is just easier. It just becomes like muscle memory or something. But it's just not what I always thought. So for yourself, even when you just short, I'm talking so much,
No, you're
but
fine. You
you get the
literally
point.
like
You get
it
the point.
spawned off of like my response, and
Yeah.
then you're like, wait, hold on, pause. Let's think about this for a second. Yeah, no, my parents were my mom went to school for business. My dad and my mom graduated from high school, and my mom went to fashion design school, ended up getting married and not finishing it, and in turn, she made that mean that she wasn't successful. In talks with her, that was like a decision that, or some kind of a shift in her mind that was something that she wasn't proud of. So later in life, she decided to go and get her degree in business, and she started a business later in life in her mid 30s, say. And she had 2 kids with my dad. And my dad actually, it's funny because my dad is an artist as well. My mom is more business savvy. My dad is business savvy and creative. He plays music every day. Like he's played the guitar my whole life growing up. I listened to live music when he sang at the same time. His uncle was wrote the soundtrack for Aliens way back in the day. And my cousin is Renee Sands, and she played in a band with Fergie. So on his side, he has a really like strong musical background. And so together, my dad he worked for the Teamsters. He was a truck driver my whole life. And then he used to tell me, he's like, Heather, if you do anything in your life, make sure that you're passionate about what you're doing. You get to decide what you do, and you can do anything you put your mind to. You don't have to go to work to make an income. You can go to work and love what you do. That's a choice you get to make. And he, because he was working for the Teamsters for so long in the union and with union dues and pay and all of the regulations that come along with that, he ended up resenting the job he did day to day. And then eventually he ended up becoming like a partner in my mom's business. Her best friend like went AWOL and just kind of like went on with her life and was like, I don't want to do this business after a month. And so my dad ended up by default becoming her business partner.
Nice.
And then he ended up having such a great creative part in the business as well. And I did as well. And so I think I was like 9 or 10 at the time. And so I remember developing like marketing material for my mom's business. I remember doing like flyers and designing like packaging. I remember working on ideas and concepts for the way they were going to be displaying things. I would go and sell jewelry and work in her business when I was super, super young. And I already had like a really great business mindset before that. And that just kind of like started that domino effect, I think, for me. I remember I had this conversation with somebody in the past about like whether or not kids should have a allowance.
Okay.
And I think the reason that I became more entrepreneurial like had an entrepreneurial mindset was because my parents taught me at a really young age the value of a dollar. And so I remember like they would charge us if I left the light on, it was 50 cents. So if we walked out of this room right now and I went to go get a snack, they would just say 50 cents.
Wow.
And I would go
My mom
and
was like, "Cuela larga."
turn off the
Long butt.
light. Yeah.
Long butt. Turn off the light.
Right. Which is okay to notice that for you. However, if it cost me money every time I left the light on because it cost them money,
Yeah, it hurts you.
then it created a different buy-in. And then I started to understand, okay, so if they're paying me $2 a week to clean my room, vacuum my room, vacuum the stairs, and do the basic, simple tasks that they assigned me for the week, that's $2. So if they're doing that and I have to pay them 50 cents 4 times a week, then I didn't make any money that week. And not that the chores were meant to be like an income. It's just in my little mind at that time, I was like, well, I like being able to go buy an ice cream if I want to.
It's a cost benefit analysis of, remembering to turn the light off.
Yep. And then from there, it transitioned into other things because I was like, well, whatever I want in my life, this dollar, after I screwed up twice and didn't turn off the lights, isn't going to get me very far. It's going to take me like 5 years to get the things that I would want. So then I started to think of other ways to make money. And that stimulated my mind in a way that like opened up so many doors. I remember I was 11. I started a babysitters club and I like made flyers. I already learned how to make flyers because my mom, and I started with actually birthday cards, creative wise.
Yeah.
So I started making people birthday cards and people started to notice. This was when computers were like not really a big thing. Like not a lot of people had computers. And so I would design these birthday cards and people were like, wow, that's so good. It's so cute. And it was like pretty simple and I had an eye for it. And so there was an appreciation. And then that turned into like posters and flyers and other creative elements. And then that married with the business concept. And so I did little pull tabs. I would go to the grocery stores and I would put up like Babysitters Club. And then I would look for people that I knew. And then I would include like offerings and numbers. And so people could call. I had a ring back number where my number was different than my parents. And I had my own voicemail. And so I could like set up my voicemail to like as a business, so people could call if I wasn't there and they could leave a message and I could schedule their yes.
Hearing this
At 11, I did a fun fair, like a kids fair when I was little too, and I charged $5 to get in, and then it came like your entrance, it gave you like snacks and different like tickets. You got a certain amount of tickets, so there was booths and games and activities and prizes, and I don't know, I like to figure out ways to create fun and create an environment that was engaging and then earn money.
that's that like embodies so much of the stuff that I um, learned or felt as a social worker. A lot of these kids didn't have an understanding of money when they turned 18, and a lot of it had to do with not having an allowance or not really being taught how to handle money at all. I always felt that it would be a good idea because they did give the caretakers like a stipend for taking care of the kids. Some people said you can make money off of it, but I find that hard to believe, especially with some of the, I would say with most of the caretakers that I would come across who had kids in activities, and people would try to say like, oh, they just don't want to take care of the kid. It's like, no, I think they're just keeping the kid busy, like going to activities, it benefits them and stuff. But I don't think a lot of them would teach them about money though, and I'm not really sure why. Um, but I think a lot of those kids would have benefited from not necessarily being handed a lump sum of money, but being saying like, hey, like this is a like I don't even know how comfortable people would feel telling a kid like this is what I get paid to like have you in my house, but it was like, hey, look, this is a stipend, and this is what I'm gonna allocate to you. Whatever's remaining is yours. So, especially if you want to say you're not gonna try to make a buck off a kid, it's like, look, this is what I get, and this is what you're gonna get to keep. The less you spend, the more you keep. So your room's gonna be this much. Your insurance or your part of the portion of the light bill, and they kind of see like, oh, that starts stacking up, and then I'm sure. I know myself when I started living on my own. I was 16 and I was paying my own electricity and my own gas, all that stuff. Um, I turned that fucking light off. Nobody had to tell me.
Nobody had to tell you because there was a direct correlation to what was gonna happen if you didn't turn the light off. And I think it depends on the type of person, right? So I noticed through having teams and working with teams and having a staff that not everybody's motivated through money. And so figuring out like what motivates somebody is the first part, of that puzzle, the first piece of that puzzle, because I think of activities. I'm motivated by fun. Like I'm motivated by adventure, freedom, and fun. And I want to be able to afford freedom. And that is where my drive comes from.
That's another subject that you brought up. That's interesting to me. I'm gonna jump around. I know I kind of got a little off track on. I want to go back to the foster youth part, but right now you talked about motivation. One thing about myself is I have like you mentioned about your family. My family is all business people. They all own businesses, and I just can't find myself starting a business. And one of the major things I think it is that I'm so cheap that I can't imagine someone paying for what I'm trying to give.
That's the one thing. Really?
$50 for this? Like nobody would pay that much.
You're not believing. Shut up. Shut up. So you just said basically what I'm hearing is you don't believe.
I'm a sucker for like giving people deals too. They're like, come on, man, I'm having a hard time. It's just like, well, I break even at 50, so how about 60 years? And I'll lower myself just because I'm like,
that's
I don't. Because so obviously like money doesn't motivate me that way, right? I don't want to go in debt, so I wouldn't like charge less than what it costs.
You're worth enough to not lose money. So you're worth enough. Your value. Your time is valuable enough to not lose money. And I think that there's a balance. I think that when you start a business, you are running a business whether or not you want to like admit that or not. I mean, creating art and selling art is a form of a business.
Yeah.
So
my accountant says no.
Okay, it's a hobby. It's a hobby based on what you're showing.
My accountant said I'm not there yet. He's like, nah.
So we're under $4,000 a year. 6,000 maybe, I don't know. Yeah, so hobby status.
Yeah.
However, I think that so for me in my life, in the beginning, when I first started doing things creatively, photography, for example, I did so many photo shoots for free. It wasn't even funny. I spent hours of my life working for free in effort to build up a reputation and to like create a value that I was learning. I wasn't even at the level that I knew I could be at. And I didn't feel comfortable charging somebody thousands of dollars to do a wedding in the beginning. I remember doing weddings for free. And that was crazy. It would take me 100 hours of editing, no matter how I cut it, every time. And plus the time that I spent there and then buying lenses and equipment and all the things. And I remember learning so much from those beginning stages. And that was an instrumental part of my developmental mindset around business and figuring out what my time really was worth when I dissect. My ex used to get so mad at me because I would be in the Valley Plaza selling jewelry, and every transaction I would track. So if this ring that I'm wearing, I would have my name, my business name was Chic Designs by Heather. So CHIC. So the C was a 1, the H was a 2. So I coded the name. And then based on if this ring cost me $150, then there would be a letter code on it with the price. And so I would track how much each thing cost. At the end of the day, I would do the math to see how much I made. And he would get so mad at me. I'm like, yeah, but I want to know if I just worked 12 hours of my life, I want to know what that 12 hours got me, you know?
Can I give you an Excel sheet? Like,
This was a long time
let
ago.
me show you an Excel sheet.
Yes. Yes.
That's funny. And people that's another thing that I know of people who are quite successful is that they're very tedious in things, very busy people, and they I wouldn't say they know everything, but they definitely have the things that they like to track, whether it be their money or their businesses or clientele. For myself, like I said, I don't know, man. I just don't. I don't think I'm good at taking someone's money.
It's a mindset.
And that's
It's such
horrible.
a mindset.
It's horrible. It's
No.
horrible. It's horrible. You know, I'll tell you, this is the only time, and I wouldn't call myself successful at that point. But I guess if I was going to measure that I was getting the most money per hour, making an effort at getting good at something, I would have said it was when I was working as a broker. And I got the job. I was working in LA, and I had left my county job. I went to go take care of my dad until he passed away. And then I moved with a friend to LA. So we're living in LA, and I was like, I just want to take a break from work, which is what I'm doing right now again. Taking a break from work, and I'm just going to do something on the side. So there, I just got a side job. Oh my goodness, I lost my train of thought.
We're talking about not being. You said you wouldn't consider yourself successful at that time.
So I was working as a broker, and so I got this job. Started out part time, and I had to make pretty much people were if you Googled how to if you had to move, right, and you decide, I need to move from Bakersfield to Philadelphia, how much would that cost? Let me Google that. And so then when you did that, it generated some type of information, and it was sold to this company, and then I would call you. So you didn't even ask me to call you, but I would call you. And the rule was that within 45 minutes, I needed to have your credit card, all the property in your home on a ledger, and then quote you a price and try to close the deal.
Wow.
And you would do it, and then I had the liberty of the once I calculated all your property, I would know how much money I could make off you. So it would tell me like, hey, if you want to make 30%, and then I would let me know my commission. And so if I want to be greedy and get the highest commission, I would overcharge you so much. What I would do is I would overcharge like 30%. I would overcharge 30%. And then I would try to keep it at 15%. And so what I would do is I would have the person, and if they bit and they took, then they took. And if they were like, I'm on the fence about it, and I'd be like, look, let me give me a minute, and I would put people on hold. I think the sales thing is what fucked me up too. But I would get up, I would go for a walk, and get a water, and then like, hey, how many sales you got? They're like, I ain't got nothing. It's like, oh, you're getting fired, bro. You ain't got no sales. And I get back to my desk, and then I'd be like, all right, I'm back. Look, I just talked to my manager, and we talked to dispatch. I am owed a favor, and I really want to help you out because I know you're trying to move. And so I got the price down to such and such. And so I would take 5% off or something. And then I would just keep chunking away at it until they bit. I did that, and it was like kind of normal. And then I met this guy in Vegas. I was working there, and they had an office in Vegas. He was really into the Raiders, and I love the Raiders. So like, I'm like, I got family in Vegas, and I talked to my boss. I was like, hey, I'm really liking this job, and I've been talking to this guy. We've been making some sales on my extra hours, and I like to go out to Vegas and work at the other office. And I think they thought it was like, what the fuck? Like most people just want to work here in the office. This guy wants to work at other offices. So they set me up with the computer over there, and I met this guy, and I won't say his name, but or the name of the company, but he taught me just how to be like about the money. Like he told me one day he would listen to the calls, and he just pulled me aside when they took me out to eat. He's like, bro, you're good at this job. You understand how to use all the tools. He's like, you just gotta stop giving a fuck about these people. And I was like, wow, man. He's like, I'm not telling you to hate them. I'm telling you to just not give a fuck about them. Like you close the deal and you move on.
Interesting.
And
Like
so,
take the emotion out of it.
Yeah, and so I started doing that, and man, my sales went up significantly.
Because that time that you take that walk is cutting into your next call, which is really interesting because your mindset
It's not the
pre
business
that.
set. It's not a business
No, 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 it's not
set.
that. Your mindset is much more common than you think. Having a hard time charging your worth is one of the most common problems that, or opportunities that business owners have. One of especially new entrepreneurial or not maybe even entrepreneurial mindsets, but like new people that are in business that maybe don't have a business background. That is the one of the most common problems that people have. They don't want to charge as a starting artist. And maybe you weren't rolling in the dough. And so you're looking at the way that you would spend money in your budget and you're trying to figure out a practical way of purchasing or selling with everything you do. So you go to the grocery store, like, okay, I have 3 choices on this. Well, which one am I going to buy? When I'm not doing well, I'm buying the sale one. That one's on sale. I need that one. When I'm doing okay, I'm like, I'll take the middle road one. I don't know if I'm ever going to get to the place where I'm like, I'll give me the most expensive one. I want that one. I mean, there's certain things in my life, like designer jeans. Yes, I will buy designer jeans because they will last me 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
And I won't have to buy another pair of jeans for a long time as long as I don't fluctuate too much in weight.
Where are you about washing jeans?
Oh, I don't have weird rules around
No.
washing jeans. I do know that a lot of people like don't wash
Don't
jeans.
wash the jeans.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like washing them all the time. I will put them in like the dryer and I will eventually wash them, but I'll wear them at least like 3 or 4 times before I wash them.
Yeah, I do. I kind of do the same thing. Well, it depends on how tight they are. It's different for girls, I think.
And the weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But sometimes like you get caught wearing jeans on a hot day and you're like,
no,
oh,
there's
fuck,
no way. Yeah, I'm not wearing that. Yeah.
For someone who was listening to that and kind of like you said, maybe it is more common than I expected, and they're hearing that. So what is the way that you would tell someone this is how you figure out that price you're worthwhile? So because people have asked me about selling their art, and I'll tell them like I haven't really thought about it. I just kind of think about the material costs, and I just try to I just like, oh, that canvas I got it half off, so instead of $50 I got it for 25. So I can sell as long as I sell it more than 25 plus the materials. Then I'm breaking even. So I like to make maybe $100. The general rule that I tell myself is times 3.
So the way I do
The cost to produce it times 3 is usually what I try to think as a price.
the way I do it is I value my time, and a lot of people that know me well know that time is one of my most valuable things that I have in my life, and everybody gets the same 24 hours, and so when I look at the amount of time it took me to spend on something, that's how I value things. So how much is your time worth? How much is 1 hour of your time worth? And how long did that take you? So if that took you 30 hours of your life and you were at a regular standard job, what would be the least amount of money you would take to work in a job right now hourly?
Yeah.
What would it be?
For me to work somewhere?
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought about it because I was thinking about staying from going back to the 9 to 5. And I think right now the comfortable price for me is the minimum of like paying my bills, and having extra to not go into like debt and save money. I'm so cheap. So like for people who are like, what the fuck? I am super cheap, and I don't have debts. I don't have very few debts. If anything, is like if I make like a purchase on my credit card to like buy tools or something, but that's about it.
Right.
Like $1,400 is what I need to make a month.
A month.
To pay my rent, and mind you, my rent's like 3 months ahead.
That's good.
I'm so people for the people out there, because we're talking about, people have told me, people sometimes think I have money. I am so cheap that but I like certain things, and so like I'll be cheap enough not to spend on random things, and then I'll buy something nice.
That's called being frugal.
And I get that from my mom.
Yeah.
My mom is super, she built a whole house off of she would clean, my stepdad owned a construction business, and my mom would clean them. And then when they were demolishing these places, sometimes there were hotels or like very fancy places, and so she would take the curtains, she would take the chandeliers, she would take ornaments like metal work and stuff like that, and like put them in her backyard. And then one day I like was trying to throw it away, and she was like, "You don't get it." And then I was like, "All right, it just looks like trash, Mom. It's looking pretty bad. It's a lot of stuff." And then little did I know that she was building a house. And when she showed me the house, after I told her that she was wasting her time, uh, because the mom loves to do shit like that. So she took me out there to see the house. She was like, "This is what I've been building," and I was like, "What the fuck? Like, you have a 2-story house in the middle of nowhere? Like,
Oh
what the
my
fuck are you
God.
doing?"
And so she was acquiring all of these things for different parts of her space.
Yeah, and then I think like probably a few weeks later, she picked up all the stuff, and then next thing you know, like I went to go see the house again, and she had all the stuff was in the house. All everything was just everywhere, painted and cleaned up and working order. And I was like, holy shit, this is crazy.
So she was able to furnish a house and outfit a house for like a quarter or less than the price that it would have.
The price of carrying it, the gas, if you want to do the math about that, yeah. Um,
But 1400, let's get back to that really quick.
yeah. So 1400,
Okay.
yeah,
So
definitely. I think 1400 would be enough for me to pay my bills, not go into any type of like weird ass debt, be enough to like go out here and there. I continue my life day to day as I always live.
okay. So if you were to say that you would choose to live a life of luxury, what would that amount? Not necessarily like over the top luxury, but like maybe you wanted to splurge a couple more times than you have in the past, or maybe you wanted to create a savings or an investment account. Maybe you wanted to eventually purchase a house. Like, what would that number look like for you
To feel comfortable, like okay, like feel
to
like
like make a move? Like, how it like
to start buying stuff in that middle category, to like start buying
yeah,
stuff in the
like
high
to
category,
maybe like the middle
the middle
category.
category.
Yeah,
I would say probably around like 50 grand, 40 grand a year.
a year. Okay, so probably like $5,000 a month. That's 60. So maybe $4,500 to 4,000. We'll say 4,000 to be on the conservative
Yeah, I think
side.
for 4,000 I would be making more than I was working a 9 to 5 probably,
Okay.
without overtime or anything like that.
So if you were to take that number and you would say you commit 35 hours a week at that rate, so 4,000, we'll say 35 hours times 4, 140 hours, 4,000 divided by 140, you're looking at $28.57 an hour. So whatever you do with that mindset, you would factor in about $30 an hour of your time to get to that goal and to live a life that you felt would be comfortable at getting paid at $30 an hour for 35 hours a week. And so that's how I value what I charge. That's how I put an evaluation on what I would charge for things. So if my number when I was doing graphic design, if my budget based on what my lifestyle I was looking to live, if I wanted to travel, if I wanted to explore the world, like my freedom, how could I buy into that? What could I do to contribute to me living my best life? What does that look like?
So you got my brain going because I do sometimes think about how much I need to make at a job where it's like, oh, are they paying me enough to do this job? And I think about it that way too, but I never really thought about it as my like if I'm doing a business or art, how I would break down the hours, because it also not only tells you what you should be charging an hour. If you flip it backwards, it should be telling you how much you should be producing.
Yes.
I should be producing 40 hours, or would it be like in a month? Would be
140 is what
160 hours.
I did.
160
I did it a
hours.
little less than normal because like you don't really need to work 40-hour
No,
work week is just something that's like a social norm. It's like
Yeah.
a staple in America. But most people, they're not working 40 hours.
Yeah, and I would still want to make a little bit more than my 9 to 5, or even if I was making the same, that would kind of be I'd be content with that. But I would definitely, I'm not someone who would want to not work or have a traditional job and not have like insurance, not have life insurance, all those kinds of things. And so that's another part too that I've talked to a few artists. Sorry, my mouth is getting dry. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Start hearing it in the speaker.
A lot of
I've
people,
talked to a few artists, and I don't think they have that retirement plan. And I
and,
don't know if it takes talking to a certain person there, or maybe they get to a certain age where they start to thinking like, do I really want to make 160 hours of art every month?
and there's a lot of people that look at retirement insurance, life, like all the things that go along with benefits when you have a job. And a lot of people think that that has to be really out of the reach of a normal person. Like it's a high expense. And if you, as a business owner, I have a PPO, Anthem, I have a private insurance agent that I deal with, and I pay $35 a month for my health insurance for a PPO. And then I have I think it's like Northwestern Mutual or something, a life insurance policy that I pay $25 a month. And then I have an IRA that I contribute about $300 a month to. And so every month I'm spending about
And that's not even crazy. 300.
no, $350 a
I was
month,
putting away like 700 to.
which is great. I mean,
Yeah,
I
but
have
I'm so cheap. I'm so like,
frugal.
so yeah, yeah. I want to call myself cheap sometimes
You do.
because people always. I'm not that cheap. My nephew's cheaper than me.
You're savvy. You're money savvy. You get to make it be whatever you want it to be. You don't have to be cheap. You could be whatever you want. You could be money conscious.
Well, I don't buy cheap things.
Yeah, you're not technically cheap.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess frugal. Frugal.
Frugal has
Okay,
like
I'll
a
start calling
negative.
myself cheap.
Frugal has a kind of a little bit of a negative connotation. I think that maybe it sounds like old school.
And I've always called my mom frugal, and everybody in my family is very frugal. In Spanish, it has like some like negative connotations a little bit, but for the most part, yeah, my nephew's very frugal as well.
You're thrifty. Maybe you're thrifty.
Thrifty.
Thrifty is like you have.
Nah, because again, I don't really like mix and match stuff.
Thrifty would be like if you had an ability to make money stretch. In my mind, that would be my
Okay.
definition for thrifty. Like having the
No,
capability of
no,
getting
I
the
wouldn't
most
call it
out of a
thrifty.
dollar. No?
Frugal. I'll call it
Frugal.
frugal. Just
Okay.
trying to not overspend and make it worth a quality purchase versus like just impulsive or something that I just want to splurge to show that I have money or something. It's just like nah, I like those things. We got off track. Where were we at?
We were talking about, well, we stopped talking about allowances, and that was how we went down this path. We started talking about the value of a dollar and the importance of teaching kids how to spend and use money and create budgets.
Yeah.
That's what we had started talking about. And yeah, I feel like that's a really interesting topic.
Yeah, and that's something that you've managed to figure out and move forward. You got that pretty early on. I like I said, for myself, I've never. I think I bought a drone and I started flying the drone, and then a few people in learning how to use it, I noticed that a lot of people were taking footage of businesses and like selling them to the businesses, and so that's one thing that I kind of did for a little bit. And my nephew was telling me about it, and I had someone pay me to take some aerial shots. I didn't go looking for it. They just like knew I had a drone. They asked me, "Hey, could you do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly what you would do with a drone." And so I did that. And the person asked me, and I was just like, I just want to go take a picture. And it's like, whatever. I was like, $25. They're like, really? $25? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh shit, was that too much? I'm an asshole. Like, and they were like, no, I was gonna give you 100. And I was like, really? They're like, yeah. And I was like, then just give me 50.
And see, that's
and
where.
then the person sent me the $100 anyways. They're like, fuck you. Here's $100.
That's cute. See, that's cute. And I think that's also, we were talking about knowing your value and affiliating a value for your time, like a monetary value for time. And it's something I found in my life that doesn't necessarily come easy for people in my experiences.
I think I'm such a kickback person too that I'm not just thinking about the money. I'm also kind of just thinking about hanging out with somebody. Like even like Deidre and Brandon asked me to help out with the haunted house, and they are compensating people this year, and they let me know that hey, we're gonna try to pay people so much for their time, and so is it really worth someone's time? Like if you ain't got nothing else doing that day and you want to go volunteer, like yeah, it's awesome. It's a good chunk of money for a day that you weren't gonna do anything. You were just gonna hang out at your house and maybe spend money. You can go make some money. So yeah, I don't mind going and doing it. But it's not a crazy amount. But I'm also thinking about like I could hang out with Brandon and Deidre, bullshit a little bit, scare the shit out of people, which is also fun. So there's like these other things that are not like monetary that I'm always thinking about too.
And that, and it's some.
But you can't eat off that.
And I think it's just identifying what really like we started talking about what drives people. So what actually like drives you. And for me, I learned that freedom is what drives me. So having the freedom to do, to create, to be, to travel, to explore, to interact, to connect. Connection, creativity all come through freedom for me. Having the freedom to do whatever I want in my life and to make choices that are going to lead me to the path of freedom. And freedom is a broad word that can be like dissected in 100 different ways. And once I figured out what really truly, like, where I was happiest, I think Deidre was the one that did an activity with me a while back. She was like, when you're happiest, where are you? And I was like, oh, I'm exploring something that I've never explored before. And maybe I'm like in another country and I'm trying something new, or I'm like, the whole day is an adventure and I don't know what doors are going to open for me. And that could be here in Bakersfield. And I started to figure out ways that I could emulate that feeling I get when I feel like most like myself, whether I'm in flow when I'm creating an art piece and I don't even realize what time it is anymore. Like, you know how many times that happens when you're literally like, your mind is so focused on this canvas in front of you. And before you know it, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning and you're like, oh my God, I just spent 5 hours or 7 hours doing this art piece. And I was in flow the whole time. The freedom to create, that fuels me. And so once I've figured out how to identify what it is that contributes to like my overall happiness and well-being, figuring out ways to emulate that and speckle that into my day is where it's at for me.
When to answer kind of like what drives me, maybe a a long but short story. So I went to Peru with a friend after my father had passed away. I was left school, went to go take care of my dad, passed away. Me and my friend moved to Los Angeles, and right before we're gonna make this trip, he's like, "Hey, I wanna go to Peru. Would you like to go?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Another friend canceled. His girlfriend won't let him go, and so I'll give you his ticket, and you can help me out since you speak Spanish. You can translate for me." And I was like, "Yeah, sounds like a good deal. A trip to Peru, and I just had to translate. Cool." And I remember we took ayahuasca. We took a couple other hallucinogens throughout the time that we were there, leading up to like taking ayahuasca. You would have these like deep dreams, and you would peel back kind of like your perception of certain things. So like kind of like what I thought a relationship was, what I thought my family was, friendship, all different things. Kind of just went through each one of these in like these parables. Very interesting dreams. Um, and I remember one of them was kind of like it was the last night, and I was kind of wanted to know what the fuck's the point of this whole fucking thing? You know, why am I here? You know, and it seemed like that's what the conversation everybody was having. Like they were all having like these things going on in their life, and so they wanted to come and try to find themselves. I was just translating for my friend, you know, So I didn't have this like this deep. They had been doing research, and they would talk about Joe Rogan and DMT and like all these things, and I was just like, I'm just gonna get high with this dude in the jungle.
Yeah, I'm just here for the ride.
I'm just gonna have a good time. And so my friend, he was wanting to like live that lifestyle. He's Native American, and he from what he tells me, he had some lineage of like medicine people, and so he wasn't a part of that, and so that was his way of kind of compensating for that, was like traveling and meeting these medicine men. At the time, that's I think what his idea was. But these people would ask me to stay. We would meet these individual shamans, and they would ask me to stay. They would tell me like, you should be a shaman, and I'd be like, I want to be out here. Like I like this idea of like being out here, but after a while, like I kind of did in these dreams, um, I would be most content, and even now I feel content. Not like having things, but just being able to like move. Like if I right now decided I want to go live near my mom, I go live with my mom or near my mom and hang out with her for a period of time, and then it's like, I haven't seen Ray in a while. Let me go see my brother, and I would just go there and live and still somehow sustain myself. And I've never really found something that was other than art. Art would probably be the only thing that I can think of that I could just do anywhere.
So that's what drives you. That's kind of like having the
Mobility,
freedom.
because
Yeah.
those are the toughest things I've had in relationships. Is
Interesting.
the feeling of losing mobility.
Interesting. When were you born?
Huh?
When's your birthday?
April. I'm an Aries.
Aries. Yeah, interesting.
Um,
I'm a Sag.
I have no
Same
idea
problem.
about the stuff, but yeah, I know people kind of have an idea of how people make decisions or their emotions and their relationships and stuff. And I would say for the most part, some of it makes sense because people do tell me like, "Oh, you're like this and you're like that." I was like, yeah, I guess so. Um, but yeah, that's really what has been the hardest for me in a relationship is like losing mobility, but also my relationship is what motivates me to have a 9 to 5 and like be I guess be a good person, be like the traditional like, hey, I gotta get a 9 to 5 and get some insurance and get a 401k. Like that's all for my relationship. Like okay, I do it for her.
Right.
Um,
I mean, you do it. That's such a that's a burden, though. You know, like oh, having a insurance, and we just talked about that. I mean, really, so $350 a month, you can have insurance without having a 9 to 5 job.
yeah, yeah, but I think there's a feeling of I've never had this conversation, so I don't. I'll probably take this out too, but I've never really had the conversation with her. But I do definitely kind of feel like there's like a traditional obligation of how to like support somebody or be there for somebody, and so like for me, a 9 to 5 has always been like this, like the most secure way. Is like, hey, I just go to work, I have bills, we have somewhere to live, we go on vacations, we do things. But I do kind of like in the back of my head go like, I don't want to do this forever, man. Like, but I don't have any other way of doing it because I suck at charging people for shit.
I can't. I can't right now. I can't because I can't. I am hosting a. This is really the first thing that comes to mind. In January, the first weekend of January, I'm hosting a self development workshop. It's an organization that.
I need to develop myself.
Well, I think that like literally all the things you're talking about are just. It's perspective. It's. I have this conversation on a regular basis with so many people. Perspective, like how I look at my life every day. What do I do every day that's contributing to the way that I look at things? One day I was traveling and I was with a friend and I was like, I really wish I could have brought my electric toothbrush with me because I love brushing my teeth with my electric toothbrush. And she's like, well, why didn't you? I was like, well, you can't travel with an electric toothbrush. It takes up too much room in my luggage. And she was like, well, if you believe that to be true, then it's true. And I was like, okay. And then 2 years later, I'm like, oh my God, it's so true. Like, if I truly believe that I cannot get on a plane with an electric toothbrush, then I'm never going to bring an electric toothbrush with me. However, if I believe that I can, then I will. And it's literally just a mindset. And I think a lot of times in my life, I've been subjected to running like having that same mindset of how I think certain things should look. How do I go to work? How do I drive from this place to this place? Like, what are the things that I do in my day every day that are super routine that's what I've dictated as like the right way to do it? And really, does that serve me? Like at the end of the day, does that actually serve me? Does that lead me towards like the freedom that I crave?
No, not if you're
No.
cutting yourself off without really knowing if
So
that's
do
not
you,
an option.
do you really need a 9 to 5 job in order to be in a happy, successful, supportive relationship?
No, definitely not. No,
No.
no,
No.
no. But
But
it's quite a leap. It's a leap from having a 9 to 5 and I wouldn't say being successful, but definitely being well at your jobs and sustaining yourself and having the basic necessities. But then jumping over to like I'm just gonna go for it, and that's why like I'm kind of like um, hesitant.
what are the things that you do in a 9 to 5 job that bring you joy?
Being impactful, a kind of like a sense of purpose and a sense of giving. You know, when I was a social worker, if I compare it to being a broker and how horrible it made me feel because I was taking from people, I was letting them down. I wasn't giving them like a story or a background, right? I was just like, you're money to me, and if you're willing to give up what you work so hard for, if you're just gonna give it up to me, then fuck, give it to me. Don't give it to that guy. Like someone's gonna take your money, so it might as well be me.
And
And going to a job where like I was a social worker and I would get yelled at, I would sometimes be in danger. I had to I had to be a parent to like 30 children, not directly be their parent, but definitely make sure that the what a parent would do was being taken care of, whether it be their biological parent or their foster parent. I was having to check on people to tell them basic rudimentary shit about how to take care of a child, and I didn't have any children, and I knew the basic shit of that. But anyways, um,
That's common too.
I would find it so rewarding because they did have stories that even though they were like, oh, I didn't know I couldn't give my kid chips all the time. It was like, nah, man, you want to balance that with something. And it's like, okay. Um, and seeing them, my favorite story, and I always tell people, like, so you could talk about social work all the time, but to tell like one specific story that would give someone the spectrum and an insight into why people become social workers or why people stay social workers, and unfortunately why people leave being a social worker, um, is I was hired as an assistant at first, and they had me cover this visit. It was a mom, a dad, and I believe 3 children, 2 children, sorry, 2 children, and I was watching this visit, and when I was watching it, I was just thinking like, these are fucking awesome parents. They were a little like, just talked about basic stuff. They weren't talking about nothing interesting to say, like political or anything like that. But they were just like talking, had these general conversations with their kids, almost childlike. But the kids were like, "Dad, I want a soda." They're like, "You can have a soda, but you got to drink water with it because we learned in class that it's bad to drink soda all the time because it's bad for your organs, and so you got to drink water. Okay, so drink your water, and then you can have a soda." And they were like, "Oh," and then we brought food, and they bring in, they're like, "What's this?" They're like, "Oh, okay, so we learned about balancing the food. You guys can't eat chips all the time and soda all the time. Now we know better now, and so we didn't know, but now we know. So here's chicken, white rice, and a green." And so it was just like so like out of a what you learn in health ed or something. I was just like, what the fuck, this is so funny.
It was rewarding though, because you could see the impact.
I could see that these people just didn't know.
Yeah.
They weren't trying to be malice towards their children. They just did not. They generally did not know. Nobody informed them that that wasn't a healthy thing to do, for whatever reason, right? Um, their their backstory was that they went on a binge, and the children were left unattended, and the children ended up eating their own feces, and that's why they had the children removed.
Wow.
And they went from that to
Caring.
9 to 5, clean, um, just like poster board, like trying to be good parents.
Wow.
And to me, that was like, wow, that's like the most like craziest shit I've ever experienced. And I saw a lot of families do that. A lot of like people have negative things to say about people in foster care or children in foster care, but they have stories, and you have an impact on them. And for myself, the most rewarding was that people would constantly tell me that I was a good social worker. Like parents would tell me, my kids would tell me, they would tell me like I had a kid. He had like a nervous breakdown at school. He had like I got a lot of kids with like mental health issues. A lot of my cases were kids with like severe mental health problems and aggressions. Um, and so one kid had a breakdown, and then I went to talk to him about it, and we talked for like 4 hours, and I was like, "Hey man, I gotta go, man, because it's getting late. You got things to do. We've been talking about this subject for a while, but I'm gonna head out now, and we'll pick it up again later." He's like, oh, "Okay," and later on he told me, he's like, "Nobody's ever done that," and I was like, "What, like spend time with you?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I had nothing to do for the day, and you had some stuff that we had to talk about." They're like, "No, like nobody asked me the questions that you asked me. Like everybody's just like, did you eat? Did anybody hurt you?" And then they, "Okay, everything's safe. Bye." And I was just like, "So what's going on, man? Like having a conversation with somebody and just kind of like getting to know them."
Which ties it back to your inauthentic feeling that you expressed earlier with working in sales. So creating an authentic environment for yourself that feels good, working with somebody and changing their lives and making a difference, creating an impact versus selling something. So connecting, working for yourself, selling a product, selling a piece of art with taking people's money in your mind, a story that what I'm hearing in my experience of you right now is that you're this. I can't help myself with this. You're connecting somehow.
Be as brutal as you want to, because I have a like I don't care.
Somehow you're connecting selling a product with being inauthentic.
If okay, I think what it is, I'm also like, apart from being like really laid back, a lot of it comes from like my perspective on life, right? Love philosophy. Took philosophy classes in college, and would hang out with the professors and talk about certain things. Like I really enjoy philosophy. One way that I like to look at, because I am kind of like I would call myself like existentialist, kind of really don't believe in a meaning or purpose, but yeah, I yearn for it, So like that when I had a job that people would say like, oh, you have an impact on someone. I was like, oh, that's this purpose, right? And so one of those things of where I would, I guess I call it my moral compass, would be that I always I like utilitarianism. That's my like very go-to philosophy of how to live my life. Is I don't want to cause pain for people, and I love to bring joy.
Mm-hmm.
I no joy at the expense of anything like weird, but like definitely like people laughing. So I like comedy. People laugh. Um, I like art. People take it and they enjoy it, and it's not gonna cause any problems, other than trying to figure out where to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's the same thing with like a business. I wouldn't want to take from somebody and feel like they like this fucker got me, because I have gone with someone, and I'm so frugal that sometimes I'll go with my girlfriend somewhere, and then I'll kind of like walk away, and I'll come back and she'll bought something, and I'm like, oh my god, you paid way too much for that. But I'm like, whatever. But I wouldn't want someone to say that to me. It's like, oh, this who jacked me, came up on me.
And I think that so the reason I started to get involved in the restaurant industry was because I was selling jewelry at the Valley Plaza. I had 2 kiosks, and it was right when the economy was starting to. It was during it was 2008. So what was that? They called it a recession.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so I remember I've had this conversation with one of the manager at the restaurant today, actually. Last week we did a catering job, and there was a little bit of like animosity around this catering job because creating food is an extension of creating art to me. So food can be creative, and it comes from the heart. When I create something, it comes from the heart. And so love is infused in whatever it is that I create. And that could be said from creating a photo, a meal, a canvas, whatever that is. And when the purpose behind it shifts, that's when the intention shifts. And if the creation is for a monetary value, or somebody that's doing something that isn't in line with whatever I think at that time. So during the economic crisis, during a recession, when moms would come in with their kids to the store at the mall, and I was paying like $15,000 a month in rent at that time, which was insane. And they would spend $300 or $400 on something, and I knew that they were having a hard time paying their bills. If it was a friend of mine, it would hurt me so bad. Like I didn't want their money. I consciously made a decision at that time to not sell something that wasn't a necessity. And so in my mind, I felt like food was a necessity that people would choose to fuel their bodies with versus just casually like a luxury item to spend on a piece of jewelry. And so the shift came for me with choosing to sell something that would be beneficial, that would contribute to purpose, that would contribute to well-being, that would contribute to promoting health and creativity and community and growing an environment versus depleting or taking away. And I think that there's a huge difference in selling something for the sake of a monetary value and believing in something.
Yeah. So how does one go about that? That's funny you say about that. I enjoy the art as well, but one thing I don't enjoy is making the mess, like the byproducts of the trash. So I don't like doing pours. I don't care for pours.
It's too messy.
I think it's a waste of
And waste.
materials, and I think it's kind of, it goes in the trash. Yeah, I don't care for pouring.
I made a candle yesterday. I went to this company over there on Rosedale Highway. Wicked something. Wicked. You make your own scents. You combine different scents, and they teach you how to make a candle. And he was like, "You want me to dump out this essential oil and put it somewhere? You don't like the smell or something. You want me to dump this excess out?" I was like, "Well, no. What are you gonna do with that?" And he's like, "Oh, no. We have this thing over here, and we take all the excess stuff and we make it into candles." And I was like, "What is that? Like OK soda? Like back in the day when it was like they just mix a bunch of sodas together and that's the one they got?" He's like, "Yeah, it's just a combination of all the extra, and then that turns into like an everything candle." I thought it was really neat because they took that excess waste and they repurposed it. And so I feel like it comes back to perspective.
Yeah, I just trying to find something like that. You mentioned something. I know you talked about business, and you're able to, kind of made this about me somehow, but
I went to school for psychology.
Okay.
My background is in art therapy.
So no wonder I'm all chill and kick back. So like I said, I don't have like that. I would say business. I never made the jump to do a business, I guess, or go all in on a business and start charging and have the whole setup of it. But I do frequently, because of my parents and my family, always thinking about money. Like to me and my nephew, I'm sorry, I talk a lot. Me and my nephew sometimes we're driving. When he was first living with me, he was trying to find himself, and he was living on his mom's couch and was all depressed. And he came to live with me, and I just gave him structure. I was like, look, you're gonna have school, you're gonna get a job, you're gonna get yourself a car, and then you're gonna move out. And like, not because I don't love you, it's just because you got to be a man. You got to do your own thing. And so, oh, I was gonna say, I lost my train of thought.
You're driving. You guys are driving.
Oh, we're driving around, and as we're driving around, we're laughing about money. And when I'm telling him, because again, because our whole family has their businesses, and he was asking me, the same thing I was kind of talking to you about. Is like, why don't I have a business? Everybody has a business. I need to get a business. And so I told him, well, it's just the kind of same thing. It's just what you want to sell to people, man. Like, what do you want to sell to people? What do you want to provide for people? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, everything is money. Everything is money. I was like, and I was driving. I was like, that tree is like the Matrix. It's just money. Someone got paid to plant the fucking thing. I was like, and then the water system I go to it, someone got paid for that, and someone had to make the pipes. I was like, that sign, someone had to design it. Someone had to say it was okay to put it there. It was a safe. Someone did it. I was like, it's all just money. This the rocks, the grass, the walls, the fucking sky. It's all just money. I was like, just think of it as money, and just figure out where do you want to put your hand in. Where do you want to jump in and stop the money, and it has to go through you. And so he's like, oh. And so whenever I go places and I see a business, I have
to stop you. I can't even contain myself. Okay, you say that, right? And I would really, really, really be intrigued to see if you can connect that dot to, do you really feel that? Because what you just said,
money?
Not that. Do you really feel like, because you said earlier that if you're not contributing to purpose or helping people or doing something that's going to add value, then you aren't really driven by money. Mm-hmm. And so do you really feel like life is really only comes down to money? I mean,
no, I not for myself, but when I was talking to my nephew and when he was thinking about a business, what is a business? And I was like, the business is putting your hand in the pot.
Yeah.
Where do you want to jump in on? Do you want to be a part of the people who made the road? Do you want to be the dudes who design the wall? Do you want to be the guy who tells people that tomorrow's going to be a better day? Like,
but why does business have to be correlated with money? Why can't it be correlated with purpose?
Because like to me, that's a business. A business is you make a profit off somebody, so you have to think of currency.
If you think of purpose as currency, and I want to be rich in purpose. I personally, the way I look at my business is, I want to be rich in purpose, and if money comes, money follows me, because I'm rich in purpose. And according to my dad, when I was a little kid, do what you love, Heather, and the money will come.
Yeah.
And so for me, purpose drives business. Without purpose, yesterday I was at a Mediterranean restaurant. I've been going on these little adventures in Bakersfield, doing things I've never done before, because freedom, adventure, purpose. Yesterday, 5 places I'd never been. Place number 1, make a candle. Place number 2, Cajun place. Place number 3, Mediterranean restaurant. Place number 4, ice cream, new ice cream shop. Place number 5, splatter paint place. Okay, so 5 places, never been. What is the thing that I see in common, and what would bring me back to any of those places? The passion that the person I interacted with, whether they had passion or not, whether I felt connected with one of those places. The Mediterranean business owner, Sultan's, in the Trader Joe's parking lot, the guy was swamped. There were so many people in his space, they barely could keep up. He was out of the side throwing samples our way because he was so passionate about the business he created. He just wanted people to experience it as much as he possibly could. It was like the purpose was like beaming, bursting out of his aura. It was like incredible, absolutely incredible to watch somebody living their dream, like in front of me, living their dream, loving their lives because they created a business that was purposeful for them. The money's coming.
My aunt, shout out to my aunt in Missouri who just opened up her business, Cheeky's Mexican restaurant. I think it's in Springfield. I'm not sure. Something Missouri. But anyways, um, she recently, I believe she retired from. She used to work for a pharmacy. She retired and she opened this Mexican restaurant. Me and my mom were talking about it, and I was telling her like, why would she do that? And she's like, because she wants to start a business. She wanted to, that's what she's been wanting to do it for a long time. She's something she's always wanted to do. I was like, Mom, but she went from being retired. She don't have to fucking work, and she's gonna work way more than she ever worked before. And then she goes, she knows that. And I was like, oh my god, like she could have just chilled and went and saw her kids. And, and that's my mindset is like, dude, why would you do that to yourself? But to her, like she really just wants to have a business, and it's not about like having a business to give to her children. It's just her drive to like hit a goal. And my mom's the same way. She has a bunch of houses. She owns like heck. She doesn't even own acres. I had to figure out that she owns hectares. Like, and it's just like I was like, what the fuck? She owns that much fucking land.
Your mom?
Yeah, and then she's. If you ask her who she's leaving it to, she has no plans of leaving that shit to anybody. Um, is just gonna be an argument between siblings and shit. But anyways, for the most part, she's just doing it for herself. She built that house that I told you about, and then now she rents it to a gentleman, and she built another house right next to it, and she bought a um, she made a community center, and her plan was to have a place where kids could use computers, and she would sell chips to the kids, and she would give a kid a job to be able to manage the computers in that community. So those are the things that she was trying to do, but she couldn't get some contracts with a popular telephone company to get the internet, so it wasn't cost effective. She couldn't really do it on her own dime, so
Purpose.
it didn't work out. But
Purpose.
she just has all this stuff all the time, and I'm just like,
Purpose.
yeah, she just
Literally,
loves.
that is contributing to her purpose in
Well, that's
life.
contributing to her length in life is that she just has a goal for the next day. It's always a goal for the next day.
It's creating a level of purpose in a sense. Like my dad, he lives in Thailand. He's retired. He came out here. He would come out here because he wasn't allowed to be retired in Thailand. Like at one point before the age of being retired, so he
Mm-hmm.
had to come back and forth. And the government wouldn't give him, a visa or whatever to be there full time. So he would travel back and forth. And one time he's like, Heather, I'm here. I can help you with something. If you need help with your business, your restaurant, like you just tell me. And so I tell him, I'm like, okay, Dad, well, tomorrow we have a big catering job. I don't have time to go and get like cutlery, like silverware, forks, knives, napkins. Can you run to the store in the next like day, and get it? And he's like, oh, Skip. He calls me Skippy. Skip, I don't have time. I can't do it. What do you have to do, Dad? Like, what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to go to the bank. I'm like, Dad, the gym's open 24 hours. The bank is open from 9 to 5. And he's like, yeah, but that's what I'm doing with my day, Heather. And like that's what I'm doing. And I'm like, what? So in his mind, he's created like a schedule, which helps him get up in the morning and look forward to the things that he does. That's how he lives his life. And it looks differently for everyone. We do the same thing every day, all day. We create a level of purpose, of importance, of routine, of structure, of tasks, to-do list.
For better or for worse, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So I know your time is valuable, so I think we'll jump over to art. Like you make your own art, and the way I learned about you was you were supporting. They didn't have a name at the time, but Deidre and Brandon with their nonprofit where they help people. I know you came by, and then obviously they've done the mural over at your establishment. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of how art is a part of your life and that some of the activities that you're doing with the community?
Yeah. Um, Growing up, my mom was a firm believer in creating experiences. And so my whole life, I was exposed to crafting. She would do like craft fairs. She would create, like, she'd take sawdust. This is like repurposing, right?
Mm-hmm.
She'd take sawdust and mix it with glue and then create like art pieces and home decor pieces out of it. Or she would like dry fruit and like create different things with dried fruit. Or if it was apple season and our neighbors had an apple tree, we would get all these things. And she's like, well, I have an excess of this. What can I do? And so um, I was exposed to creativity at a really young age and from both sides. And it just became a part of my like day to day. And then I would do different activities growing up, like dance. I was in gymnastics. I had an opportunity to go to 2 different summer camps a year, which I got to pick from the Museum of Art. And so I could do like puppet making or I could do sculpting or whatever. And so my whole life, I just had an opportunity to be exposed to activities and creating creative pieces. And it was in an environment that was stimulated my mind.
Yeah.
And as a creative mind, I ended up becoming an art teacher at one point. I went to school originally to become an art therapist, so double major in art and psychology. Worked for myself for a while and then was at the Valley Plaza. And when the economy tanked, I got an opportunity to teach art at an elementary school here in town. And so I did that for a while. And then, and I realized that I wasn't at the place where I really truly wanted to teach art necessarily. I still wanted to create art. You know, I'd watch kids. Even when I was in high school, I did a few internships as an art to become an art teacher. I thought that I would, you know, it would be the perfect fit, be a great job. And then I noticed all of the things that children would do that wasn't in line with what I would have chosen. And it like ate me up inside. I just couldn't, I wasn't there yet. So I told myself maybe when I'm like 60, I'll teach art. When I've like given up on my dreams and aspirations. And to this point, even to this day, like I have a passion for creating. And I think it's just taking risk, having an ability to set my mind to do something, to see a result, to take a risk, and then end up with a finished product. It's fun. It's motivating. It's intriguing. It's invigorating.
One of the things we were talking about earlier, we were talking about structure while you're young that in the long run helps you out as you get older. And we started talking about foster youth. I think one of the things that I enjoyed when first meeting about you was when you gave everybody that opportunity to paint the mural in the alley. All those people were just people who had a curiosity about art, and then Brandon and Deidre just took all the hurdles out of it. Don't worry about supplies. Don't worry about the cost. And I'll give you a place to do it.
Yeah.
And so at that point, like, what's your fucking hurdle? You know, why are you not getting this done? Because that's what I would do with my foster kids. They would tell me like, oh, I wanna do, football. I was like, okay, so why aren't you doing it? Oh, because I don't have time. Okay, well, let's break down your day and figure out where we can shed some weight here. Or I don't have the money. It's like, okay, how can you do things around the house? Like eliminating the hurdles. If it's money, if it's time, if it's friendship, if it's network, if it's not knowing something. Let's look. I had a kid who wanted to be a professional wrestler, so I was like, let's just Google it. So we Googled it and we found out that he needed to exercise, that he actually needed to be flexible, that he had to have a diet, that he needed. So we got him a regimen. He had to do so many push-ups every day, so many squats. He didn't want to run, but he was supposed to work his way up to start running and stuff.
But still, it's the first step,
But it
right?
was
Like
getting rid
taking
of
that.
hurdles,
Yeah.
and they got rid of that. And so what happened when they removed that hurdle, that these people started producing art. All right, limited and with whatever, but I've seen it, and to this day, everybody's art is getting better and better, but they haven't stopped. And I think of one part was that mural. Having that mural and having something to look at, it's like I made that, I did that. Just kind of motivates you to say like, well, what else can I do? And can I make a living doing this?
And having somebody believe in you, I think, like for me, when I was a kid, I was in high school. I was an art director for our performing arts department as a student. And my art teacher was like, okay, you're going to be the art director for this production. I was like, oh, can I do it with my friend? And she's like, no, you can't. You can't do it with your friend. You're doing it by yourself. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I'll do it by myself. So I do it by myself, and I learn all these things about what I'm capable of, and like how my mind works, and my work ethic, and what my capacity is. Like I was able to figure out, okay, well, if I'm pressed for time, how do I perform when I'm pressed for time? How do I come through when there's a deadline? Like, what happens when people don't do what I expect them to do? How do I compensate for that? Like, it taught me so much about myself in that regard that I was able to take that and apply that to the rest of my life. And I feel like that one, just having that one person believe in me at a young age, it can make or break a person. I know so many people that their stories, their art journey was shifted by a teacher that didn't believe in them, that, or a parent or a partner or a spouse or a friend that made fun of them or belittled them or made them feel like their art wasn't good enough, and that changed the trajectory of their lives. And I was lucky enough at a young age to be surrounded by people that allowed me to explore my creativity
Mm-hmm.
and believed in me and didn't stifle that. And I think that's why I have a passion for creatives in our community, because I know firsthand what it's like to be a creative. I am a creative. And I feel like if I have a capability, a platform, an opportunity to make somebody's life better, oh, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Comes back to purpose.
Yeah, very selfless too. I mean, just the amount of like I said, every every one of those people that I've met who who weren't necessarily producing their own art, they were just taking the classes with Brandon and Deidre. They're all every once in a while I'll see them post something that they just finished or something that they're working on, and I'm always like, wow, like it just having that support there impacted their life, and I'm sure they're all going through it in their head. Like even myself, I haven't sold any art. I've given art to people throughout since before this, but never like, oh, I want to make some money off of this. And so recently I started asking people like, hey, do you want a portrait? You know, just no charge, just what do you want? And then just so I could make it and then see what you say and then post it. Um, but even then, I had some people not send me something. I asked two people yesterday. Yesterday was when I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna just wait or just make something. Like, why don't I just do both? I'm making my own art, and then also doing start the commissions. And so I asked two people. I was like, hey, I'll make you a free portrait. Just like send me a picture, and I didn't get a picture back. So I was like, what the fuck? Like,
And what does that look like for you moving forward? If you're
I was like, it was
motivated,
free. You still didn't send me a picture.
that's like 100. I've
They're big
learned that's
potheads
one of
though,
the
so they might have
hardest,
forgot.
the hardest lesson I've learned in my life is that I can't want something for someone. I my
Mm,
I cannot want
wow.
something for someone. One of the hardest lessons I've learned.
You got so many of these like deep phrases. I don't want to take all your time, and I know we're hitting a hour and 20 now. Um, we
Oh,
talked about your art, and I don't want. We talked about your art. We talked about your businesses and some of the community projects you do. Um, anything you're working on, or what's in the future for Heather?
so right now I've been working on a renovation project that a lot of people don't necessarily know about. I don't know if you've seen any of it.
Renovating like
Property.
a property? No,
Mm-hmm.
no, I haven't.
Yeah.
Whenever I come across it, and I've just noticed I have not looked at my phone the whole time I've been here. I don't know if it's lit up or nothing. I'm horrible with my phone, um, so I don't really look at it much. Sometimes if I'm bored, I'll like kind of scroll.
Yeah.
Whenever I see your stuff, you're usually just having like a really good time at like a nice place, like a place that looks like really kicked back and like everybody's having a good time, like socializing stuff.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So that's what's popping up. I mean, I'm the same way. I come across things, and whatever I come across, and I'm not necessarily
Why is
like,
everybody having a better life than me?
no. I feel like my intention for the last couple of years has been to have as much to balance my life with purpose and intention. And so I want to emulate the feeling I get when I'm traveling, the feeling I get when I'm feeling like most me. And I've been intentionally emulating that in our town, in our community, in my immediate surroundings. And so that's probably why you see me out and about having fun, because that's my intention right now. And also balancing out business and ideas and creating an opportunity for myself to not have to rely solely on one source of income. I've been focused on diversifying in the last year and a half ish. And so the pandemic was like a really big wake up call for me. Um, just like it was when I was doing jewelry back in the day when I was at the mall and the recession hit. I never wanted to, these things happen in our lives, in our day, in our worlds. And I never want to be solely reliant on one thing. Um, I want to be able to feel good about what my future looks like without having to put all my eggs in one basket from a financial perspective. And so I decided to create boutique Norwegian Zen artsy environments. I used to do interior design before I had the restaurant, and so it's part of my passion. And so yeah, so I renovated a property, and it just was completed last 2 weeks ago. We wrapped it up and moving on to the next
Yeah, I
project,
think
which
now
is
I'm remembering. Yeah, selling the
yeah.
property. Yeah.
So it has a really fun, creative vibe, and my goal is to create 10 properties like that in our community that are like have like a boutique vibe, and I want everyone to have a different theme. So that's where I'm at. I have a little property at the back of the space that I'm in now that is 2 stories, and so I'm going to start working on renovating that. That's my next project. And then I'm on the board for the Hub, which is a nonprofit in town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Seen a
and
few people who gone in and out of the group to help out.
there's also a committee called the People Committee,
Mm.
and they're home to the Innovation Lab, which is a project that I've been working on for 4 years now. And we basically get Deidre was on it, Brendan was on it.
Mm.
So gather community members that are passionate about making a difference in the urban core of Bakersfield. And we touch on like tactical urbanism. We do different team building activities, education around. There's an organization that we'll talk to. It's called the Better Blocks organization, and they do. You should check them out. They're on Instagram. They go all over the world, and they create an impactful temporary space in areas that are problematic. So maybe it's a underserved community that is just a corner in a community that's underserved, like a bad block of a neighborhood, and they'll put in like a little pop-up installation. Maybe they'll paint it. Maybe they'll put in furniture that's made out of pallets that creates like a little like parklet vibe or whatever.
Mm.
And then it's just meant to be temporary so people can understand how it would feel if that space operated differently. And it's really impactful. It's one of my favorite talks of it's a 5-month program. It's been going on for 4 years. And yeah, it's really, 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 really fun. So I've been dedicating a lot of my time to that over the last 4 years. And my role in that is the creative piece. And so I get to do all kinds of fun things when it comes to creativity and connection with that organization as well. So
how many? So you do like trainings, right? I don't know what to call them, but like group training or I've noticed that sometimes you and some girls will get together and you guys will have a meeting and you have an activity, but the purpose of the activity is to like bring out something in, fulfilling their purpose or starting a business or being more present on social media. I don't know what you call those sessions or trainings or lectures or
like almost like an event, like a different events that are I host different things at the restaurant
Mm-hmm.
to stimulate people's minds and to create more awareness around mindfulness, around creativity, around motivation, around um, vision. We've done like vision board classes. We had a manifest event at the restaurant one time where we had guest speakers and they came and they spoke about their struggles, their victories, their triumphs. I've partnered with businesses that have done really fun community building activities. Recently, it was a Eula Palooza with Emily at the Playful Space and Cassandra at Those Things by That One Girl. And so I was a sponsor. I just sponsored that, but I was a huge advocate because I love what they're doing. And so I try to partner with people that are just doing great things, and I try to figure out ways to leverage my business and the reach that my business has to grow other people. Yesterday, when I was at that ice cream place, it
Mm-hmm.
was two men that have been in the ice cream making business for 30 plus years together combined, and they just started a business of their own. They never were working for themselves. They were making ice cream for other corporations and companies, and they decided recently to go out and open I don't know how to pronounce it. I forgot. It begins with an S. It's Sherbs. I think it's Sherbs ice cream. Yeah, Sherbs. It's in the Sully's gas station over there by the marketplace.
Okay. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
So
Yeah.
it's Sherbs. And so they their mindset is they develop ice cream without using as much air as other businesses do or other
Oh,
restaurant
they're selling
brands
you
do.
air. These people.
And so this ice cream is
I
a
heard
little bit
people
more
put water and chicken and stuff to like make it way more and stuff. I was like, oh, people are crazy.
deli meat. Most deli meat is injected with liquid, and they call it, it's like a saline injection. And there was a time when, this is a whole nother topic of conversation, there was a time where there was a proposition that was getting pushed by the government or somebody to not say what was in our food. And there was like this woman in a grocery store with a cart, and her son was in the front of the cart. And they were like, I don't need the government or somebody to tell me what's in my food. But really, it came
So
down
funny.
to, it was really deceiving because it comes down to carrots. If carrots or turkey breast, we'll do turkey breast. Turkey breast, go to the grocery store, to the deli counter, you get turkey, tell them to slice it however thin you want it, and then you go home. Well, that turkey is injected with a solution, a saline solution, and to a certain percentage. So it's a certain percentage water, and it's not only just water, they do other things. And so we don't even know what it's being injected with because it's not a requirement to, it's not an ingredient. They're saying it's just the meat, which it's not. So I want to
Yeah.
know, like, well, what chemicals are they injecting meat with, you know what I mean, before I ingest it. So that's a whole nother, yeah.
So, we'll wrap this up. A question about maybe all these businesses and having to work out in the community. And, you know, you're very driven in these things. In comedy and in some of the things I've done in entertainment here in Bakersfield, people always have this like king of the mountain mentality, not very cooperative. So you've been finding these people who are cooperative, who are motivated, who are, I would say, positive. I don't think you want to hang out with people who are negative. So how is it that you're like filtering this, or what is it about yourself that you're kind of having a good? I mean, amongst business people or restaurant owners? Do you guys get a lot of like haters between each other? Like, do you guys hate on each other? Because I've heard of comedians calling There's a rumor going around right now that one of the comedy places called a government entity on top on another comedy club to try to shut them down.
I was having a conversation yesterday with the owner of City Sandwich, the owners of Schwarb's
Mm-hmm.
ice cream, and a content creator in town. And we were talking about competition. And I think that the new era of business is community centric and collaborative centric. And I think that the more I've seen in my own life, in my own experience, the power of numbers is so much more beneficial than the power of one. So for me as an individual by myself, what can I create? I can only create so much. Once I start getting other people that are passionate about the same things on my team, on my boat, in my car, like I can do so much more. And so my mindset is it's not about competition. It's about figuring out a way to share what I've learned, and maybe through my struggle or my hardship or my successes, what I can share with people that has worked well for me to help build other people up. And I think that energy attracts like-minded energy.
I do believe that. Um, Going back to when I went to do ayahuasca in Peru, I didn't go with the same mindset as other people, but I ended up there and had the best time. And once I left, I found that at random, people who were having a hard time and were looking for an answer, usually a shortcut, right? Because they want to go do drugs to try to find it. They're not just trying to tackle their problems.
Right. They're looking for an easy way out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so um, when I went out there and did that, I ran into so many people who were like, "Oh, I want to go do ayahuasca, and I want to do this, and I want to do that," and it would just naturally. When I would talk to them about why they asked me about it or how it came up, they would just say like it was just like a vibe you had, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and um, the common thing I would tell people too is like, don't push it. Like if you're gonna go, go, but don't like I have to go and I have to go this year. It's just more like I didn't want to go. I just ended up there and I enjoyed it and I had a good time. Um, for people who want to join some of your sessions, how would they go about that? Is it something you just advertise here and there, or do they just DM you on Instagram?
Yeah, so on our Instagram, on Locale's Instagram page, whenever we partner with a business, we promote it on our page, on our stories, on our feed. Recently, we gave actually our we gave access to Anna Maria at Happy Whole You. She's a naturopath, a doctor of naturopathy. Um, she did a mindful minute every day for the month of September. And so, if somebody's out there and they're doing something great and they want a platform to share with our community, reach out to me, direct message me on Instagram. I love figuring out ways to create wins for other people and for myself. So that's just something that I find joy in.
My I think you and my nephew would have a great time talking because he likes business as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, I enjoy it and I observe it, and then again, I just need to find something
It comes
and
down to
do it.
people. I
Just get
feel
it
like it's
done.
all people. Like literally,
I'll tell you, like the way my family thinks about again, going back to like how they think, and I'm not really there all the time. I do see opportunities, but I guess I just don't go for it. My nephew the other day, he was looking for. He now owns a tire shop here on Niles, called True Value Tires, I think it's called. But he started that business. He also owns a trucking business. Um, he needed a big air conditioner kind of thing that he would just put in the shop and it would just blow air from outside. Big old square things. I'm sure you've seen them at
yeah, the
businesses or restaurants outside.
porter coolers or whatever
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
called. Yeah.
And so he did some research and he came across one that was on discount for some reason. You know, he was like, okay. And so he looks into it. He looks at the specs. He does his research, and he finds that it's a really good deal. So he goes to buy it. But it was such a good deal that he bought like I want to say he bought. I keep saying 14. I want to say he bought 14 of them. Um, and the people who he bought it from ended up selling it to him, but then they tried to like redact on it, telling him like it was such a good deal that I think they might have lost some money
They made a
or
mistake.
some type of mistake. And my nephew saw it, and so he just went for it. And he was like, "No, like you're gonna fulfill this." And they're like, "Well, how about we instead of the ones that we sold, so like, what are you gonna do with them, right?" And he's like, "Well, I already have buyers. I'm gonna sell them to other people." And so they're like, "How about this? How about the ones that you're gonna keep? We'll just like sell them to you at a crazy discount, and you just let us know who you sold these other ones or gonna sell these other ones to, and we'll sell it to them." Like trying to give him a deal, and he was like, "No, like you're gonna sell me what I'm gonna keep, and then I'm gonna make my deals. Like, or you know, fulfill your obligation."
It was before he actually picked them up.
Yeah,
So they've
yeah,
caught it before it was like
yeah.
in
They
his
called
hand.
him. They called him, and they were like, "Hey, we want to make this other deal," and he was like, "No, I'm good. I'm gonna go forward with what I have." And they didn't end up like canceling it or nothing. They sold it to him, but they were all delivered to, like, he didn't have to do anything. They were all delivered, and he made his money. They were sold before they ever got to him. But
Wow.
he sees shit like that, and he does shit like that.
So that's a different type of business. That's business that's motivated by money.
Oh, he's 100%. Like, my nephew to this day, he owns his own home. He owns two businesses. He's married. He should be having a baby pretty soon. By the 7th. It's due by the 7th. Um,
He's motivated by money, and you're not motivated by that. You're not motivated by money, so you're comparing yourself to.
but and I don't want to portray him as like greedy or something. Like
No.
his thing is like he likes to see that deal. He likes to see that zero. My stepdad was very much like that too. He would do bids on contracts, and it wasn't about how much he was gonna make off of it. He just wanted to know how he beat the other guy, or if the guy beat him, like he got a better deal than him, he would be like, "There's no way he could have done it for that." And then he would, like, people would just leave if they didn't win the bid. He would go and he would read the fucker, and he would be like, "Oh, that's where he's gonna lose money. He fucked up. He didn't calculate this." And so he just took joy from that. And even the way he would describe to me that when he would go to the bids is he would just sit there and just kind of like rub his hands, like he wanted to win, but he wasn't gonna win at a loss.
Right. Yeah, it's a different motivation, and I think I'm not motivated necessarily. I mean, if I was motivated by money, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair because I would be in a different place in my
The
life
money
right
just
now.
came, right? Like it's kind of, you said, the other things just came once you were
I
doing what you
don't
wanted.
look at myself as someone who's like has an abundance of finance. Like I don't look at myself as somebody who's just rolling in the dough. I look at myself in a light that I'm creating opportunities for myself to set myself up for my future and to create a healthy, livable income. And I have been in positions to where I have an opportunity to create finance for myself and to increase my finances. I don't feel like I've made it. Like I don't feel like I'm here. Here I am. I like made it in life. I did it so successful. I feel like I'm constantly working on ways to set myself up for a great future, for some type of financial stability in my future, and have a little bit of breathing room and room for adventure and creativity. And I don't know. I don't feel like I've necessarily arrived.
I think everybody I've known who's had a business and even was content with what they had, they continue to do other businesses. And my mom, my mom owned Chinese restaurants with her first husband, who was Chinese. They owned a bunch of Chinese restaurants, and then from there she opened up her Mexican restaurant, bought out her partner, started a nightclub. There was an unfortunate incident where the nightclub had to be shut down because of some guy getting shot, and they had to close down, and that kind of interrupted my mom's businesses. Then my mom went to jail, and and then when she got out of jail, she started a
She went to
business.
jail.
Both my parents went to jail.
That's interesting.
Long story short, my mom married my father and had a home from her previous marriage, and so she rented it out to a lady. When she rented it out to that lady rented it out to her son. So it was a subcontract or whatever. So she rented it out to her own son, and apparently the son was trafficking drugs. The son was the property was raided, and my mom happened to be visiting the property, and so when she was visiting the property, because in Mexico you're guilty until proven innocent,
Mm.
and also you're responsible for your property, and so they arrested her. They arrested my father. My dad did a year. My mom did a year and a half, and then they were never convicted. They were just released once the work was done to verify that they were innocent. But because you're guilty until proven innocent, you go to jail first.
So it's the opposite in the United States.
Yes,
Innocent
very
until
much.
proven guilty.
Yeah, very much. People take so much for granted.
Yeah.
Um, um. So, anyways, and
Does she
then
still live in Mexico? Your
yeah,
mom?
yeah. She once she retired, when my stepdad passed away, and she just stayed in Mexico, and she started building these properties, and she'll just kind of see a deal. She'll see a deal, and she just has to go for it. And she's so frugal herself that she has like that extra income, and so if she sees that a neighbor is selling their property, not necessarily, these aren't like where my mom lives. They're not like, it's not a neighborhood. They're like makeshift homes. My mom built a fucking 2-story home, and bought a whole block,
Wow.
and just built a 2-story home with a gazebo and automatic. Me and my brother put it in because she was dragging this hose and we were scared she was gonna get hurt. So um, we put in these PCV pipes, and she just goes out in the morning, and the pump fills up two big old water tanks that she has
Mm.
on her roof, on a shed that she built. And we have two tanks on top, so it fills up with water. And then all she needs to do is that she goes to one knob, she turns the knob, and it waters like a quarter of the
That's
field.
awesome.
And then she turns that off, and then she turns another knob, and it
Yay.
waters another quarter of the
That's
field.
awesome. That's solving a problem right there. What you just did for her. That's amazing. Good job.
Cause my mom's hard headed. She's those people that keep trying to pick stuff up that they're not supposed to pick up anymore. Like you're not at that age anymore.
She's driven. She can't. Yeah.
But
I have a question for you.
yeah.
Okay. So how would you
Are
define?
you stuck? I don't want to keep going because I won't shut up.
You're fine. No.
So you're gonna have to cut me
we're
off.
good.
Tell me like
We
I
already-
gotta get going, and then I'll
I'll
cut
tell
you
you.
off.
Yeah. Don't worry. How do you define a successful business owner? Like, what would be
Wow.
your definition of a successful business owner?
That's a tricky one because I think success is subjective. Um, and like you say, you gotta what's your motivation? So it's very subjective. But to me, a successful business owner is you got past the struggles of like, am I gonna stay open?
Mm-hmm.
You're pretty much sustained and doing well. You don't necessarily have to be working there. You could be working there. You could have your own staff, whatever the situation. But I think as long as you're where you're not worried about, I've never been there, but I could imagine like taking that risk, and then people leverage homes or get mortgages and stuff. So I think successful is where you're getting more money than what you're not bleeding money. I guess is the best way to say you're not.
Okay. And
That's
then
successful to me.
what does it mean? Like, what are the prices that a person pays to own a business in your mind? In your mind, because you talk about your family owning businesses, and I feel like there's some stigma around that.
I think a lot of it is not separating business from relationships. A client isn't necessarily a relationship, rather it's a service. And so if they're willing to pay for it, and that's what I think is valued at, then that's just how it's going to be. You know, you don't like it, go let someone else fuck up your sandwich or something.
And that's something you
but
learned.
for me, like in relationships, I don't like using people as a means. I don't. Um, um, but I just don't see like I'm just so frugal with stuff. I guess I'm trying not to say cheap now. I'm so frugal with things that I just can't see charging people an arm and a leg for certain things. And um, I think I guess I associate it with being like greedy or like a Mr. Burns, you know, like yeah, like my nephew, I love him, you know, and I'm glad that he's where he's at. And to see someone who, like I said, was not in the best mindset when I went to go visit him, and I had an opportunity where like I don't have kids, I don't have any like obligations, I'm got this good job, this cush job, I'm super frugal, so like, you want to like I'll rent you a room, don't worry about rent, I'll put you through school, whatever. But to see him to where now he like this is I'm gonna delete this, but it's just gonna go bleep. But I remember when I told him, you're gonna move in with me, but there's a point where you need to move out. You need to be a man of your own man. Nobody's gonna say that I helped you. You did it for yourself. And the only way to do that is to not let you live with me forever. So you get on your feet, and then you're gonna move out. And so I ended up moving out myself.
That's creating a boundary, by the way. That's creating a boundary. There's nothing wrong with creating boundaries. That's healthy, super healthy.
And I hope he appreciates it. I don't know how he sees it. We never really talked about it, but there was a point where he wanted his nephew, his brother, my nephew. He wanted his brother to move in with us. So at that time, I got us a 3-bedroom, and then the nephew never came. I was like, "What's up with him? I thought he was moving up this month." He's like, "Oh, he's gonna stay another month." And I was like, "Ugh." I was like, "Okay." And so then, like, I think 4 months had gone by, and I was like, "Hey, man, what the fuck?" He's like, "Well, he's not. He's looking at this job, which I'm glad he stayed because it ended up being a good career for him. But I was paying for extra, and I was expecting someone to be there and eventually take up that cost of that extra room. And so I got frustrated with him, and I was like, hey, you know what? I need you to not only start paying rent, but because of the situation, I'm going to have to find a roommate because I'm not going to be paying for a 3-bedroom. We're kind of stuck here for the rest of the year. And so I'm gonna be looking for a roommate. And he's like, no, I don't want these roommates. I don't want to be with these random people. And I was like, okay, well then, do you have anybody in mind? He's like, no. I was like, well, it's gonna be either you find someone or I'm gonna find somebody, and also you need to start paying your rent. And I had a guest at the time. The guest thought it was so funny, the conversation we're having, but he was like, well, if I'm paying rent, how am I supposed to save money? And so I just laughed at him so hard, and I got mad at him. I should take that back. I got really fucking mad at him when he said that to me, because he was not considering, like, I'm flipping the bill here, man. Like, that's not cool that you're saying you don't want to pay. Like, you're talking to me about greed when I'm being charitable, and that's fucking, like, it's not setting well with me. So I just sucked it up because I was like, he's a kid. And then time went on, things went on, and then I'm gonna cry thinking about it. But I give him a call because this was a couple months ago. I give him a call just checking on him, see how he's doing, and we're talking about bitcoins and shit like that. And I was like, hey, he's like, I was like, so how you doing? He's like, good. He's like, hey man, what do you think about Bitcoin and shit? And I was like, I think it's Beanie Babies, things that are only as valuable as people give to it. It is what it is, and the government
Diamonds.
can shut it down at any time. It's all Beanie Babies, right? Babe, bro. And then he's like, okay. And so I was like, why? He's like, I just bought $1,000 worth of fucking Bitcoin or something, like some kind of like crypto, some crypto. And I fucking started fucking dying. And he's like, what? And I was like, I started crying. I was like, what? And he's like, what? I was like, I can't tell you how proud I am of this moment. And he's like, why? I was like, because you couldn't pay me fucking $200 like not too long ago. And now you're just throwing $10,000 to the fucking air. I was like, I'm so proud of you. And he's like, whatever.
That comes back to your purpose. That comes back to your purpose. Like, you literally lived a life that,
But I wasn't mad at him. I wasn't like, you fucking
no,
idiot spending 10,000. I was like, how
created a
beautiful this
platform.
moment
You
is.
created a platform for him, just like I do with my business every day, all day. I create a platform for other people to grow. You create an environment for the people that you love to succeed, and that's a sense of community through family, a sense of community through people in our neighborhoods and proximity to us. Like, that looks a lot of different ways. And for you, you've already learned. My experience of you with all of this is you learn that you don't want to create a business that's based on heartless interaction. So the story that it sounds to me like the story that you're telling yourself about business is that when in business, it's heartless. And in order to succeed, people need, this is just from speaking to you, in your experiences, you've needed to take the emotion and the person out of business in order to make money. And so when in life, when you've had the most success, when you felt these really deep connections to what you're doing, those meaningful moments come from creating an opportunity for other people that wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for you, and putting your heart on the line. And so there's a disconnect that's happening, and I don't know if you could even see it, and I'm not doing a good job in asking questions to paint a picture for you, because I can see it and I don't know if you can.
I guess it depends I see what you're talking about, but I'm not connecting. Like, I guess I need to find a business where I feel it feels not heartless. It's like purposeful.
How do you get to have a business that doesn't, how can you create a business that is in line with your purpose, that isn't about undercutting the person or undercutting the emotional side of business? How can you have both? What does both look like? How do you get money and purpose? How do you get money, purpose, and a great relationship that is supporting a relationship?
I don't know. Don't know.
You don't have to know the answer right now. It's just
Yeah.
more of like a, what is it? What would it look like for you to make money and have purpose without having a 9-to-5 job? How would that look for you?
Kind of what I'm doing right now.
And stay authentic and true to yourself.
Yeah.